When you're first starting out in wedding photography, one of the biggest questions that comes up is what gear do I need for a wedding day? Now, there's lots of information online about how a wedding photographer should handle a wedding day, but it all varies. So let me share with you all some tips on choosing the best lens for wedding photography. Keep in mind, we're not going to be talking about specific lenses, but steps that you can take to get the lens that will work best for you and your wedding photography approach. Also, a big thank you to this video sponsor, Squarespace, the best place to build your wedding photography website. We'll be talking about them later on in the video. So when it comes to choosing the best lens for wedding photography, the first question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to shoot prime or zoom lenses? So if you've never heard of a prime lens, it's basically a non-zooming lens. Now, if you're new to photography, you may be thinking to yourself, what's the point of a non-zoom lens? But there's a lot of advantages to prime lenses. This choice between prime and zoom lenses is really going to be up to you as a photographer and what you want to get out of your lenses. One of the first things that's going to make this decision for you is the style of your photos. Prime and zoom lenses, in my opinion, have a very different feel to your photos depending on how you're using them. With a prime lens, you're going to have to be more into the action, closer to your subjects while you're taking your photos, depending on what focal length you're using. Because of this, if you're more introverted or you just don't want to deal with people, prime lenses may not be a good choice for you. With that in mind, you may want to go for zoom lenses. However, keep in mind you're not interacting with your subjects as much, which will also change the way your photos look. Another part of that as well is the distortion on your lenses, which generally will change depending on how close you are to your subjects. And so with prime lenses, you're getting a very specific look, maybe with a little bit of distortion on the lens as well. And there's just a way that everything looks that's gonna be ideal if you like that look. So for me, I'm more of a prime lens shooter. I like the look of that, and I also like the fact that I know what I'm getting from each of my lenses and its specific focal length. Whereas with a zoom lens, you may not hit the exact same zoom spot at all times throughout the day. When you want to shoot 35, you may shoot 33 and a half or 36 and some change. It's never going to always be the same, and sometimes you'll get a different look because of that. Something else from the feel of each of your photos between prime and zoom is keeping in mind the fact that you'll have to switch your lenses if you're using prime lenses. Now, during a wedding day with a lot of things going on, knowing when and how to switch your lenses quickly is very important if you're going to choose to go with prime lenses. If you don't have a good workflow for this, it's going to totally ruin your wedding days, and you're going to miss way too many shots. For instance, when I'm shooting with prime only, I bring 4 lenses with me, and I have a set time of day when I'm switching between certain lenses. So for example, when I start the wedding day, I know I'm probably going to be in smaller rooms, hotel rooms, and there may not be as much space. Because of this, I'm not going to shoot with an 85. So my camera that I have my tele lenses on, because I use 2 cameras, will have a 50mm at longest. Then my wide lens one will have a 35 or maybe even a 24. Because of this, I don't have to switch my lenses throughout the getting ready section of the day because I already know I need the space and wider lenses. However, when I get up to the ceremony, now I know I'm going to be standing back from where the ceremony is actually happening, and because of that, now I'm going to be using an 85 on my tele side and a 35 on the other side. So again, you have to have a process for using prime lenses. Whereas if you're using zooms, you can just zoom whenever you need to, especially if you have something like a 24-70, 70-200. At that point, you're like, well, one camera is 24-70, so I don't even need the 70-200 camera yet. Or you could just have one camera and then switch the lens when you get to the ceremony and use the 70-200 at that point. So between the feel of the photos, if you want to get closer to your subjects or not and be a part of the action, and also knowing when to switch your lenses, these will set apart what choice you're going to make when it comes to choosing prime or zoom. Now, just to insert myself into this, again, I prefer primes. I don't mind being close to my subjects. I actually prefer it. I already have a workflow for being able to switch my lenses throughout the wedding day, and I just don't like the look of zoom lenses. So this is the first choice you need to make. And do you want prime or zoom lenses for the perfect lens for wedding photography? Your next choice is going to be based off of how much low light shooting you're going to be doing and how much light you need to get into your camera. Now, again, prime versus zooms, one of the biggest differences here are your apertures. The aperture is the iris of your camera, and how wide that hole can get will allow more blurry backgrounds and also more light to come into the camera. Now with zoom lenses, you actually are not able to get that low of an f-stop. So you're going down to maybe f2.8. I personally have not seen anything lower than that on a zoom lens, but if you have, please let me know in the comments below. Mention what lens it is. Help everyone else out by knowing some really low aperture zoom lenses. But f2.8 is fine, but keep in mind you'll be having to crank up your ISO a bit if you're going to be using something like that. So again, you have the versatility of zooming, but you're not letting in as much light. However, if you go with a prime lens, now you can get down to f1.4, 1.2. Even Fujifilm has a 1.0 lens. So that's letting in a whole bunch of light, making low light shooting so much easier. So a big reason this choice is very important is if you're going to be more of a natural light photographer, or if you mainly want to use flashes all the time. If you're doing natural light, you're definitely going to want to go the prime route and get a very low aperture lens. That way, when it starts getting darker, you don't necessarily have to pull out your flashes as soon. Or if you want to be a little bit creative and use some low shutter speeds, it's much easier when you have such a low aperture. Again, on your zoom lenses, you're stuck with f2.8 for the most part, and you'll have to start using flashes. And again, this is not me saying, hey, don't use flashes at all, but I understand a lot of photographers like to get into the low light and still not use their flash a little bit. But definitely use a flash. And if you don't know how to use a flash, I have my flash course. I'll link it up above in the description below as well, which will help you learn quickly and easily how to get good looking photos at your wedding events. So generally this choice with the aperture is the main reason I went prime. F2.8 is usable and it's not so bad. However, I love a good f1.2, f1.4 lens. Getting all that light in, it just looks great. The blurry backgrounds look great and they're just awesome to use. So for me, that's why I went prime. That's why a lot of people go prime, but make sure you pair this with our first choice about if you want prime or zoom in the first place, and this will help choose your decision on the best wedding lens for you. Now, if you're a wedding photographer and you're looking to get more work and show off your work online, you need a good website builder, and the sponsor of this video, Squarespace, is the best way to do that. I've been using Squarespace for my wedding photography business for over 10 years now, and they have never let me down. They're easy to use, easy to upgrade, and a great way to show off your portfolio online. I highly recommend signing up for them with the link down below in the description, picking a template, using their Fluid engine, and also some of their templated page layouts to quickly build yourself a website. On top of that, if you end up getting into selling physical or digital products, Squarespace has commerce that can help you do that quickly and easily. And with Squarespace payments, you can keep everything in one place. Now, I'm not even getting into all the stuff that you can do on Squarespace. You have your email marketing, your analytics. You can put courses and videos up online. There's so much you can do with Squarespace. And again, if you're a wedding photographer looking to grow your business, you need a home base for your business online, and Squarespace is going to be the best way to do that. So make sure to check out the link in the description below for 10% off of your first website or domain. Set up your website and make sure you look like a legitimate wedding photographer. Now, image quality is everything. However, the reason I say it's the last on my list is because a lot of photographers focus too much on image quality and getting like the perfect photo and not how to take a great photo and what your light's going to look like. And then because you're always so concerned about image quality, you're going to be upgrading your gear all the time, and it's not efficient for your business. Remember, at the end of the day, you are running a photography business. You're not just taking photos to take fun, cool photos. You're running a business. You need to pick the lenses that will work for you, that you don't need to upgrade all the time, that can get that work in and get the money in, not always having gas and buying the new lens that comes out every single time. So because of this, pick a lens with great image quality that you found today that works well for you, and then stick with it for the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Like, keep it for a while. Now, for image quality, you're going to have to do a lot of that research on your own because it varies from lenses, and it also varies from the type of lenses, like if it's a prime zoom, if it's a low aperture lens, if it's a 1.4, 1.2. There's a lot of different factors that can change the image quality of each lens. But again, the biggest tip I can tell you is don't have gas and try and buy every new lens. Just because you see another photographer who bought the new thing that came out and they're saying it's great does not mean the last version is not good or the one that you have isn't good. I will say personally from what I found, I think primes have a better image quality than zoom lenses. However, this can be argued, and let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite lenses are, if they're prime or zoom, and why you think they're such a good lens, because again, it ranges extremely wide, and image quality is one of those things where it's based on the photographer, how they took the photo, and also kind of the camera body as well. So just make sure you're getting a good lens, but I will say you don't have to spend the most on the best lens. Like back when I used to shoot Canon, I think there was the, what was it, like the 50 f1.2L, and everyone was like, whoa. But then a bunch of photographers were actually like, I prefer the f1.8 version of the 50L, and that was like almost half the price cheaper. So it's those type of things that you have to pay attention to. Don't be afraid to buy a lens that's cheaper, because a lot of the times the image quality is just about good enough. Sometimes those upper lenses that are super expensive have diminishing returns on the image quality. So again, don't let people sell you online. Don't always try to get the newest thing. Get what works for you, it looks good for you, and you can personally tell the difference, and then go from there and make your money. And speaking of making money, having poses at your disposal at any time, ready to go on your wedding days, is hugely important. So definitely check out my video here on my 10 favorite poses that I use at pretty much every wedding day, and I will catch you all next time.